She is a familiar face here at the University of Macau. We're very happy to welcome her back here again. She has recently finished her PhD at the National University of Singapore and is now working at the Chinese Academy of Sciences Institute of Philosophy in Beijing. And her main area of research is in activism, particularly as that's related to cognition in dreams. So, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Thank you for having me here. It's my honor to do this presentation today with you guys. So this presentation is based on a very early version of a draft that I plan to write about the internet and formation of echo chamber, which was inspired by some of my work previously. So I will appreciate any comments, criticisms, because I'm still in improving this draft of this paper. So the topic of today's presentation, of course, is the internet and the formation of echo chamber. So here are the contents of today's presentation. In the first part, I will talk about information processing from the perspective of predictive processing. And then I will try to distinguish the content of subjective experiences by distinguish them into conceptual versus pre-conceptual content. And then I will talk about the formation of echo chambers online. And the last part, I will try to propose a escape plan from the echo chambers formed online, which is to adapt one's self-knowledge. So, predictive processing. The theoretical framework of predictive processing was used to explain perceptual activities mainly in the past. So there are several relevant concepts in this theoretical framework that I want to introduce to you guys. So the first is predictive patterns, which refer to the neural activities generated by the brain in response to incoming stimuli, which was, these predictive patterns are formed according to the past interactions between the body and environment. And the second concept is predictive errors, which refers to the discrepancy between neural patterns generated and incoming stimuli. And according to the theoretical framework of predictive processing, the whole process of perceptual activities is to minimize the predictive errors, okay, which is to reduce the discrepancy between the predictive patterns generated by the brain and the incoming stimuli. So we do this either by updating the neural patterns or directing the body to look for more information to match those patterns already generated. So in this framework, the predictive processing can roughly be categorized into two types. First type is the top-down processing, which is the generation of neural patterns developed in the past interaction between the subject and world in response to current stimuli. And the second type is bottom-up processing, which refers to the processing of incoming information and the attending to different information sources if needed. So basically, the top-down and bottom-up processing interact with each other in a continuous manner when we perceive the world. So in this paper, I want to suggest that this theoretical framework used in explaining perceptual activities or perceptual experiences in the past can actually be used in the explanation of information processing as well. And particularly in this paper, I want to use it to describe information processing online. Because, well, the quick reason is that because during perceptual activities, during information processing online, we are both forming beliefs about the outside world. So in this case, in the online environment, top-down processing refers to process of already held beliefs based on our values, memories, expectations, etc. Okay, so those are regarded as the predictive patterns activated in response to incoming new information. And the bottom-up processing in this case will be the processing of information and attending to different information sources if needed. So basically, I suggest that those are very similar. So here is an example that I used to illustrate the relationship between perceptual activities and information processing. So basically, I suggest that in our everyday life, when we perceive the world, actually, perceptual activities and information processing are not that separated from each other. So take the example of perceiving an apple and forming beliefs about the concept of the apple. So when you are perceiving a green apple, first of all, you will have the visual stimuli from the physical presence of this green apple. And according to these visual stimuli, you will have the first top-down processing. Okay, your brain will generate predictive patterns developed in the past while encountering similar environmental stimuli. So basically, this object is green, it's a round shape, it's fruit-like. Okay, so probably your brain will just generate a predictive pattern. Say, okay, this looks like a parallel related patterns. Okay, so those neural patterns related to the perception of parallel will be triggered. Okay, so you will think about, okay, maybe this is a parallel. However, there are uncertainties in the physical presence of this object, because obviously it doesn't look that much like a parallel in reality. Okay, so these are the predictive errors between your generated predictive patterns and the continuously incoming information, which drives you to look closer, okay, in order to get more information. And then, because of this, like further exploration, you will probably change the predictive patterns, because you can see that this, compared to a parallel, is smaller and it smells more like an apple, and it's also with the stem on top. Okay, so in this case, your apple-related patterns will be triggered in your brain. So you will form a belief this is a green apple. And also, if you are a person who has never seen a green apple before in your life, who has only seen red apple in your life, then you'll probably change the second level belief as well, which is the conceptualization about an apple, that apple can be in green color. So you can see that the already held beliefs of ourselves will influence how we process information from the environment. And then with the processing of new and more information, we have the chance to adapt our own beliefs. So I have explained the physical substrate of how we perceive the world and how we form beliefs about the world. So here I want to add something about the phenomenal content of subjective experiences, which is based on one of the papers that is written by myself and forthcoming in 2024. So, like I said, I want to distinguish between conceptual content and pre-conceptual content. So here, there are three types of content of subjective experiences. Conceptualizable content, which refers to the stimuli in the center of one's attention that can be conceptualized. Pre-conceptual content, which refers to the content of experiences that have not been specified and appear as possibilities from a subjective perspective. And also conceptual content, the content of experiences as conceptualized and can be expressed in words. So the whole process of belief forming and perceptual activity is a process of conceptualization, which is the conceptualizable content constantly emerges from pre-conceptual content through body-environment interaction directed by the motivation to get conceptual content. So basically, I want to argue that when we are navigating in the world, when you try to learn about the world, we are all driven by the instinct that I want to conceptualize the world. So basically, this is the process of conceptualization. So in the case of the apple again, the visual stimuli from the apple contains conceptualizable content and pre-conceptual content, because you have the visual stimulation from the physical presence of the apple, say of the face of the apple, okay? And the pre-conceptual content refers to the possibilities for exploration, like the back of the apple, the side of the apple, the texture of the apple, or the smell of the apple that you have not known yet, okay? And well, the first top-down processing is a process of conceptualization, of course. And then with uncertainties in the physical presence of this apple, which is the pre-conceptual content, and you will go further exploration. And then you will go through another process of conceptualization, which is the number 2 top-down processing. And then finally, you will form the belief that, okay, this is a green apple, which is a conceptual content. And if you have never seen a green apple before in your life, then you will probably have another changes in your conceptualization of the concept of apple as well, which is apple can be a green color. This is also a conceptual content. So what I want to propose in this paper is that the theoretical framework of predictive processing can actually serve as an explanation of the physical substrates of the distinction between pre-conceptual and conceptual content of subjective experiences. And with these as a premise, I argue that changes in the balance between top-down and bottom-up processing correspond with the changes in the content of subjective experiences, either in perceptual activities or information processing online. And I also want to argue that online environment differs significantly from the normal environment of information processing, which I will explain immediately after this slide. And the major argument of this paper will be the disruptive balance between top-down and bottom-up processing online will lead to a distorted self-evaluation that traps the epistemic agent in an echo chamber of the self. So what's so special about information processing on the internet? Well, there were three main characteristics that's relevant in this talk. So the first one is the amount of information available online. So according to an estimation in 2013, back in that time, there's already like the information that can fill 35 billion 500 page books that's available online for us to explore. Okay, so that means there's a lot. And in terms of the style, online information are mostly description based. Okay, that means it contains conceptual contents mainly, and there is much less pre-conceptual content online. I will illustrate this point with the Apple example later. Okay, and speed and accessibility, which is a very key characteristic of online information processing. It's very fast and it's very accessible. If I ask you right now, how many exhibitions right now are being held in the British Museum, you can use the internet and tell me the answer immediately. Okay. So what's an echo chamber then? Echo chamber, as defined by Nguyen in a paper in 2020, is distinguished as an epistemic mechanism that there is a disparity between the trust granted to the outsiders and the insiders. So that means if I'm trapped in an echo chamber, I will automatically discredit any information from the information sources that is outside of my chamber. So in other words, that's contrary to my preconception about the world. Okay, so that's an echo chamber. And I suggest that the formation of echo chambers online is the accumulation of problematic interactions in a special environment, which is the online environment. And I suggest that this is the problem with the construction of predictive patterns when we use or when we rely on the internet as the main source for information processing to learn about the world. So the internet, like I said, it has a lot of information, okay? When you search for, say, echo chamber, okay, there are a bunch of information available. Therefore, we have to rely on certain algorithms to filter information, okay, because of the limited cognitive abilities of each of us. You can't just, well, I want to know about I want to know about echo chamber, and you look through all the information about echo chamber online. That's impossible, right? So we have to rely on some algorithms, okay? However, the purpose of the designers of those algorithms vary a lot, okay? Are they all trying to help the users of the internet to form reliable beliefs? Well, actually, most of them, at least for now, the main purpose of them is to tailor information according to one's preferences. So the result of this is that we'll constantly affirm our already held beliefs for each of us, okay, despite the potential flaws in them. So if, say, I search for echo chamber online, and you guys also search for echo chambers online, we will probably get very different results because of our different search history, okay, using the same search engine. So, and the style, well, like I said, information available online are mainly conceptual content. And there is a significant lack of pre-conceptual content. That means there will be a smaller room for potential correction when we encounter new information. And speed and accessibility. While the internet is very fast, it's very convenient, okay? However, according to a series of empirical studies done by Internet World, the speed of the information flow on the internet can actually bring some disadvantage, which is it will make the internet seamlessly integrated with our cognitive system, which sounds like a good thing, right? However, it was found that this will lead to a significant level of overconfidence of the users of the internet and will make people lose knowledge of self-limitation. So basically, if you rely only on the internet to search for something, then it is possible that, or it is significantly possible that you will misunderstand your level of understanding of that particular issue, okay? So this is related to the formation of problematic self-knowledge that may influence the process of information contrary to one's preconceptions, okay? Because you think I know a lot about echo chamber, and then all of a sudden I encounter some information that's different from what I think. I would just say, okay, maybe this is just fake news or misinformation on the internet. You know, everything is on the internet. Internet can trick people, and I know about echo chambers so much, so I just discredit the information source. Okay. Yeah. So again, back in the example of seeing a green apple, but in this time, instead of encountering a green apple in reality, so with the physical presence of a green apple, you just encounter a picture of a green apple online. So what's the difference? Well, this time, the visual stimuli comes from the picture of the apple. That means it only contains conceptual content and with much less preconceptual content. Okay, you cannot touch it, you cannot smell it, you cannot know the exact size of it. Okay. So again, you will, well, because of this stimuli, you will have the same process of conceptualization. You think it's green, round, fruit-like, okay? Maybe it's a pomelo, okay? But there are, of course, ambiguities because it doesn't look like a normal pomelo, right? But in this case, what's important is, can I point this here? Okay. Since there's very limited preconceptual content, and just assume that I've never seen a green apple in reality before, okay? Instead of trying to explore, trying to maybe touch it or smell it because I can't do it, okay? Instead of doing this kind of further exploration, I would just search for more information that is consistent with my already held beliefs. What is my already held beliefs? Well, here, I think this should be a pomelo, okay? So why does it look like an apple? Well, this is a fake news, okay? This is misinformation that is said by some evil people that try to trick me, okay? And then I will look for more pictures of red apple because that's my firm belief that apple can only be red, right? So imagine if you Google red apple, of course, you can see a lot of information immediately available as proving to you that, okay, why apple is always red, and you can see a bunch of picture with an apple that's in red, right? So large amount of information, adding the filter algorithm that will suit your preferences, and then fast and accessible information, which will help you form the belief that, okay, I'm right. And this picture is just a fake picture to trick people, okay? This is conceptual content. And with more and more rounds of interaction with the internet, like this, you will develop the epistemic feeling that I know about Apple a lot, okay? I know it all along. I know a lot about apples. I'm confident in my ability in evaluating whether a piece of information about an apple is true or not. Okay, so this is a really problematic conceptual content. So you can see that, firstly, the lack of pre-conceptual content and the exposure to conceptual content will makes it lack of ambiguities and possible for correction or further exploration. And in this case, the top-down processing will overwhelm the bottom-up processing. What does that mean? That means your already held beliefs will influence or overwhelms all the incoming information, okay? You will just stick to your already held beliefs instead of adapting the beliefs to fit more with the reality, okay? So with abundant information consistent with one's beliefs and quick and easy access to this abundant information, the boundary between internal and external knowledge becomes increasingly blurry, and there will be an overestimation of one's cognitive abilities and internal knowledge, okay? So basically you have the feeling that I know about this so well, okay, that nobody can trick me, including the internet, okay? So this is, well, it is possible that the example of a green apple sounds weird because, well, everybody has encountered a green apple in reality before. But imagine that this is not just about a green apple. Imagine that it's about the vaccine during the COVID time, and you see that. So this is especially true when people are searching the internet for information about things that they cannot get direct access to, or they are unfamiliar with, okay? Novel things in reality, in life. And this kind of process will become quite natural, actually, for people to learn about things they do not know in reality. So at the end of the day, you will have a distorted self-evaluation. Basically, the self becomes the authoritative voice in the echo chamber, discrediting information sources that is inconsistent with my point of view. So I call this the me loop. Okay, a similar concept actually is also mentioned in a book by Professor in 2014. So how to escape it? So this plan is just a primitive conclusion, but that's my try. Okay, so the escape plan for people who are trapped in an online echo chamber, I suggest, will be the adaptation of self-knowledge. So how to adapt it? First of all, spend more time searching and researching. And this is proved by empirical studies that the more time you spend on researching a topic, the easier for you to distinguish between what you actually know and what's given by the others, okay? And also increase the variety of modalities in information sources, okay? Try to include more ambiguities and uncertainties in the information you process about what you want to learn, okay? So this is more like a suggestion for future development of online interaction. Maybe just instead of just looking at the screen and using the mouse to click on links, maybe we can create some like more interactions between information online and ourselves. Maybe include the smell, include the changes of the online information according to our body's gestures, things like that. Okay, so as to make sure that people can encounter more preconceptual content, which can trigger their motivation to explore something that is uncertain and that is inconsistent with what they think. So that's the end of the presentation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I see one question, Simon. Yes.
Yeah, so, thank you so much. So I was curious, I kind of in the past have associated echo chambers with slightly different properties. So I think the key property you focused on is kind of conservativity, so that when you're in an echo chamber, you're going to kind of change your beliefs less. And it's just whatever you believe going in, you're going to stick with what you believe, you stick to your guns. But, you know, I was kind of thinking a different kind of cluster features of echo chambers is more like polarization, you know, like there's two different echo chambers, and people have extremely different. And I think also, if you think about across the whole population, how much variance is there in belief? So does everybody kind of believe similar things, or are there clusters of people who believe extremely different things? And I was just thinking, those kind of can come apart, because actually my kind of null hypothesis would have been that people in echo chambers change their beliefs more, but cluster with one another more, and so I was just kind of curious which the other, like a different kind of model of echo chambers is like when you're in like clusters of, kind of tribal thinking, where there's like a thought leader, there's thought leader, and then you might change your beliefs faster because you'll just agree with the thought leader, like in cults and that sort of thing. And so that would be very different than what would be predicted by like top-down processing model, where it's like it's your initial beliefs that control what happens. Whereas in this other models, no, this other person believes that maybe you change very fast, but you're clustered.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I need to make a clarification here. So echo chamber is well, the concept of echo chamber I am proposing is also regarding the credibility given to the information sources only. It's not that I hold this particular kind of belief and I will stick to it forever. That's not what echo chamber means. Echo chamber means that you stick to a certain information sources and you only credit it, and you discredit the information sources that's contrary to the information sources that's inside the chamber. But I think in the case, well, because this paper is mainly on the echo chambers form online, and that's why I actually called the authoritative voice as oneself. Okay, so usually in an echo chamber, like you said, in a normal conceptualization of echo chamber, there usually be a leader, okay, which plays the role of the authoritative voice, and then direct the rest people in the echo chambers to follow whatever he is like proposing. However, in the case of the echo chambers form online, because of the characteristics of the internet information processing that I have mentioned, I suggest that the self will actually become the authoritative voice. So in this case, whatever beliefs the self is holding, it will just, the information processing on the internet will just like constantly affirming that beliefs, okay? Whatever kind of beliefs that is. So yeah, I don't think what I propose here is inconsistent with what you suggest a normal echo chamber is. Yeah, because it's about the credibility to the authoritative voice. It's just that echo chamber formed online. In the case of echo chambers formed online, is the self that becomes the authoritative voice itself. Yeah.
Next, Nuri.
Thank you so much. This was really interesting and illuminating. Is it working? Yes, fantastic. Thank you. So I guess my question goes in a similar direction. So I suppose there is empirical work discussing the phenomena of echo chambers, polarization, etc. And maybe here I'm pulling off the same card that people played at my talk. So I don't know, it's a bit hypocritical. But I was wondering, your focus is very much on the epistemic dimension, just like mine. But at the same time, like there's a lot of work that points in the direction of suggesting that we don't disagree as much as to the factual content of what we discuss online as we do polarize on sort of in an affective way. So it's like echo chambers maybe are more about like not trusting members of other political groups, etc., and not thinking that there are despicable moral agents, etc. And these echo chambers can reinforce this kind of polarization that is not as much on an epistemic dimension as it involves these other dimensions. So I was wondering whether your model has something to say as well onto like this non-epistemic dimension of echo chambers, so to say.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I actually have another paper that's exactly about what you are trying to mention. So I'm also sympathetic with the thought that an echo chamber doesn't necessarily form. Well, although it is suggested or proposed as an epistemic structure or mechanism, I actually tried to argue in that paper that the formation of an echo chamber as well as the escape from an echo chamber are all based on social factors instead of like purely epistemic factors. So actually in that paper, I used the example, I'm not sure if you have read Nguyen's paper. So I actually used the example of Derek that he used as well in his paper. And I suggest that the formation of the echo chamber by Derek and also his escape from the echo chamber are mostly influenced by social factors. So basically the social environment a person is in. So like you said, it's the emotional factors, okay, the relationship, the distance of the relationship, the friendship with people in my social environments that influence or that makes me trapped in an echo chamber or helps me escape from the echo chamber I was raised in. So I am quite sympathetic with what you are mentioning here. Yeah, but in the case of this one, well, I'm trying to because what I want to focus on is the main experiments that I'm focusing on is the experiments done by Adrian F. Ward. I find his experiments very interesting in terms of the feeling, the epistemic feeling of I know it all along. Although it is an epistemic feeling, but I think it's more, well, if I'm to evaluate this kind of feeling, I don't think it's quite epistemic. I think it's more psychological or social, things like that. Yeah.
Hey, I'm very sorry. I know we have people waiting, but we're actually out of time. We have to end the session so we can move to lunch. But over lunch, and I think there will be opportunity to carry on the discussion.
Thank you so much for the question. Thank you.
Yes, so many people said there will be lunch now. We will go. Well, you can follow us. We will lead you to the